My love of music comes from songs first and guitar second. Accept yourself, your life will be enjoyable, I think.
How does it feel to be Team Pierce? Hello team, how are you? Team, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming. I'm excited. I've known about you for so long.
Let me ask you one question I always want to know. How did you start playing guitar?
Okay, so I was born in 1958 and I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And it was a lucky time because top 40 radio in the 60s was amazing. You have Otis Redding, B.B. King, Peter, Paul and Mary, and then the Beatles, all genres, R&B, soul, folk, rock, pop, everything. Frank Sinatra, every kind of music was on the radio. So my love of music comes from listening to top 40 radio, and to me it was magical. And even Hendrix in the late 60s. I grew up in the 60s, and by 1966, 1967, the rock bands started coming. Cream, Hendrix, Grand Funk Railroad, and of course the Beatles, the Rolling Stones. I was just in love with all of it. My love of music comes from songs first and guitar second. So I started playing guitar with the hopes of being in a band or playing for an artist. I didn't want to be an instrumental guitar hero. I wanted to be a guitar player in a band working with a singer.
How did you get your first guitar?
Oh, I would mow lawns. You know, you would do yard work for money, and my mom helped me. I saved about half the money. First, I got a harmony guitar, early harmony guitar, and then I got a used Stratocaster, and I think it was about, it was either $235, probably right around in 1968.
Have you ever wondered that you were going to be one of the most famous seasoned guitar players around the world?
No, I always had big dreams, and when I started playing at age 12. And the reason I started playing guitar is because I knew I couldn't be an athlete. I was in love with sports, but I was too small for sports. So I started playing at age 12, and all I wanted to do was move to LA and become a professional. You know, everybody dreams of being a rock star, and that would have been wonderful. But by the time I moved here, which was right before the age of 21, which was right in 1979, I just wanted to come here and be a professional guitar player.
What was your first job that you say, oh, this is serious?
Well, I did some work in New Mexico as a studio musician, but when I moved here in 1979, LA was a big campus of music. I mean, there were musicians everywhere, producers everywhere, songwriters everywhere. It was giant, so it was very easy to come in and do work at every level. So I would do live gigs and demos, and I remember at a certain point I was able to keep my bank account at $700 and start buying gear. And I thought, oh, I'm actually making it in LA. It didn't take long when I moved here. Within 2 years, I was doing some pretty major records. LA was a really, really wonderful musical environment when I moved here.
How many albums have you recorded?
Well, all music has over 1,000 records, which is, you know, I never would have remembered all of them, but I've done it for so many decades that they all have gotten in the database. So, you know, I've done so many Celine Dion records, I can't count them. And then, I've done 5 Joe Cocker records. I did 5 Santana albums.
You prefer right now to just make session on your studio or playing live with?
I like studio work, I always have. So the real focused answer to your question, in the 80s, I toured with a guy named Rick Springfield, and he was a star here in America. Yes. And we did 4 world tours. And I always felt that I would have preferred to be in the laboratory making the records rather than live reproducing the records. So that's the other reason I stopped traveling.
What's the part of you recorded on Black or White from Michael?
Okay, so it's in the bridge. So the actual main part is Bill Bottrell. That's the producer. There's a part in the bridge that was meant to be inspired by Motley Crue. Michael was in love with Motley Crue. They had a hit, Motley Crue, at that moment. And Michael wanted the bridge to be a departure that was this heavy metal departure. So it's a heavy metal riff that comes in the bridge. And then Bill Bottrell plays that iconic riff at the beginning.
There's any artist that you say, I have not had the opportunity to play or make sessions, and I would like.
I used to feel that way, but I've kind of outgrown it. Like if you had asked me that question, years ago, I would have said Peter Gabriel or Sting. So I've kind of outgrown that. I got to play with so many great singers and so many legends and so many just great people that I'm okay.
Being one of the most successful session guitar players around the world, people who want to go into the industry, would like to ask, how does it feel to be Tim Pierce?
Well, I'm happy these days because my new business is even better than the old business. Doing YouTube videos and having thousands of members in my masterclass, it makes me very happy, and I get to reach the audience directly now. I was sitting here 12 years ago, and as a session musician, I was going, how do I want this to taper off? If you go see the film about session musicians, about the Wrecking Crew, and they interview the famous session musicians from the 60s, they talk about the arc of a session musician, and one of them said, you want the downward arc of your session career to last as long as possible, right? And so after doing it for 30 years, I thought, okay, this is that chapter in my studio career where it decelerates and I do less. And I thought, how do I want this to go? And then I found out about a couple of people who were teaching online, and I thought, I think that's the answer. I think I'll just segue into online teaching.
And what do you think is the most important when you play guitar? What is the most important thing?
Your expression, the emotion that you put through the instrument, regardless of your limitations, the emotion that you put through it, the heart and soul that you channel through the guitar.
How do you develop that, the connection with the guitar? It's possible to develop?
I don't know that you can develop it. You just have to have an awareness not to get preoccupied with technique.
I always had the same doubt because when I was trying to learn how to play guitar, and I always asked to my teachers, how they think on the guitar? They think like, let's say, on the sound, you think on the notes you are playing. How do you think? How do you imagine? Are you imagining what's have to sound? How is your awareness when you play?
So my training and my life has always been as an ensemble player. So I don't play guitar alone. I'm either playing to a track or I'm playing with a band. So the part I play always has drums and bass being played along with it, and usually a vocalist. So I'm orchestrating parts, and that means I don't play all 6 notes at the same time. I play 2 notes at the same time, or 1 string at the same time. And then I'm layering parts that are in different stratas, in different frequencies. So I play a low part, I play a middle part, I play a high part, I play an ultra high part. So it's orchestration of guitar tones and parts. And you look at, should this be clean? Should it be dirty? Should it be dry? Should it be wet? Should it have delay? Should it have reverb? Should it have some other effect? Should it be backwards? Should it be ambient? Should it be old school, clean Fender? So you're looking at guitar from all the decades, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And when you play on somebody's song, you can draw from all of these famous guitar parts. You can use them anytime you want for an artist that you're working with, or on a song you're working with, or a film you're working with. So the way I look at it is orchestration, and then you put the acoustics on. You're trying to make the thing blossom and expand, and then maybe shrink, and then expand again. It's orchestration. So for me, we all know great guitar players who are solo monsters. I can't do that. I never could. I play small parts. I'm just little parts of the orchestra all the time, the guitar orchestra.
Just the final question, for me, is the most important, so hope you can solve good. What do you think is the most important thing on life?
Acceptance, I think. Self-acceptance. I think you should try and do something you love, and if you do a job that you don't love, you should try and make people happy while you're doing it, at least. So I think it's making people happy around you, doing something you love, and knowing that you don't need a lot of possessions. You know, we end up with a lot of possessions because that's our business, but you don't need a lot of possessions. You can do everything with one guitar. I used to when I was a teenager. All of this stuff, we don't need all of it. So, I don't know, you can lead a simple life, love the people around you, accept yourself, even if you feel like you are not the greatest or you're not the most talented. I mean, life is a series of challenges, and I heard this one thing lately, that commitment is an endless series of difficult tasks. If you get used to that, then your life will be enjoyable, I think.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Tim. I'm so glad that we have this time talking, and I'm very happy.
Me too.
People, this is all. Thank you, Tim Pierce, for your time. Please check his website. What's it, the website?
The Masterclass.
The Masterclass. Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.